Hi guys, my name is Steven and welcome to video number 12 in the series where I'm creating a login registration system using CodeIgniter. In this video I'm going to be building the register user function as well as some functions in the model that'll help me actually successfully register the user and clean up all the data. So what I'll do is I'll go to my main controller. I'll just create this at the bottom, the register user function. So the public function register user. Now before I actually get into creating and writing this function, I want to show you how you can actually grab the third segment of the URI. Like in this case we have main, register user, and then this key, which would be considered the third segment of the URI. Now we can grab this by specifying a variable name. It doesn't have to be key, but in this case it is key. And I'll just show you, like we can echo out key. So we can actually have access to this variable, to this data up in the URL, just by grabbing it as a parameter to the register user function. And now I have access to that key, so I can grab that. I can compare it to the database and things like that, which is actually what the first thing that I want to do. I want to check to see if this key is actually valid. So the first thing we'll do is load the model underscore users model. This load model underscore users, and next I want to say if this model underscore users, and then we'll create a function called is underscore key underscore valid, and that'll return true or false depending on whether or not that key is valid, and we'll pass in the variable of the key. If it is, we'll echo valid key for now. We'll actually do something else. Else echo invalid key. Okay, so now let's actually go ahead and create this is valid key model. So go into our model underscore users, create another function, go public function is valid underscore key. Okay, now this is going to receive the key, so we'll call it key. Then we'll just, I guess, we'll do this db where. Now this receives two parameters. It's just a where specifier. You go where key is equal to key, and then you go this. You go query is equal to this db get, and then you just specify which table you're looking in. So in this case it's temp underscore users. Now if we got one row returned, then that means it is a valid key, and if there was no rows returned, or more than one, which would never happen, then it's not a valid key. So we can go if query numRows, which is a function, is exactly equal to 1, then it is valid, so return true. Else return false. Okay, so let's try this out. So I'll refresh this. Okay, call to undefined method while users is key valid, main line 113 is valid key. Okay, I'll call this is key underscore valid. Refresh. Okay, cool. It says it's a valid key. Now that's because this key right here is actually in the database right here. However, I can exit out of this one. However, if I was to like mess up this key and go like this, press enter, it says it's an invalid key because it cannot find this this key or this string inside the database. So yeah, okay. Cool. And so this is still a valid key. The next thing we want to do after we check whether or not it's a valid key, instead of echoing out that it is a valid key, we want to actually add the user to the, like, take them from the temporary users, and then take them from the temporary users and then add them to the actual users table. So we will go this model underscore users. We'll create a function called add underscore user, and that'll also receive the key. Okay, so let's go ahead and create that. Say public function add underscore user. This receives the key. So the first thing we want to do is get all of that temporary data where the key is key. So we'll do the same thing we did in the last video. This db where, or the last function up here. The key is equal to key. We'll create a query object. Query is equal to this db get. And that's going to just get from the temp underscore users table. Next thing I want to do is check if that query succeeded. If query, then I can actually grab, what I'm going to do is I will actually grab the values, because this actually returned a whole row as well as the key containing all of the actual data stored for this row in the temp user. So in this case, the password and email, which is all we really need. So what I'll do is I'll create a row variable. Say row is equal to query. Now let's actually rename this to temp underscore users, since it's a query to grab the temp user. And now I actually want to grab, so I'll go row is equal to temp user and then row. I use the row function on it. So essentially row is going to be equal, I can now access all of the actual values returned in this query. And so I can go create a new array called data, which I'll be inserting to the actual users array, or users database, sorry. And for example, we'll go email, which will be row email. And then go password, which will be equal to the row password. And that's all we need. Next thing we'll do is we'll check, create a query, and have it equal to this db insert. Insert, perfect. Specify which row we're inserting it to. So in this case it's users, and we're passing in this array called data, containing the information that we just grabbed from the temporary users database. Next thing we can do is we can check if query. One thing up here I realized we need to actually check if temp user. So if the temp user has been successfully grabbed, then execute this block of code. Which reminds me, we should rename this. Instead of having query, we can call it did add user. So down here, I can ask it if did add user. Now we can actually delete the old temporary, the row from the temporary database, right? So we're grabbing all the information from here, adding it to the users, and then we're going to delete it, delete the temporary row in temp underscore users where the key is key. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll go this db where key is key. We'll go this db delete from temp underscore users. Cool. And then we can actually go. Okay, and and that should actually delete from the temp users. Now we can just check if they did add the user, and lastly return true. And if they didn't add the user, then return false. Cool. So in the main controller, we can actually validate whether or not this add user function was successful. We can go if add user echo success, else echo failed to add user. Please try again. Cool. Lastly, I guess instead of echoing out success, we actually want to, once they've been added and their temporary data has been deleted, we want to log them in and send them to the members only page. And we'll do that in the next video. So thanks for watching.